Hello and welcome to my Tunisian Crochet Masterclass. I compiled a series of lessons for you to learn Tunisian crochet. So we'll take it right from the basics, right from the beginnings. We will be talking about tools, basic stitches, modifications, texture, lace, more complicated stitches, patterns, and so much more. So if you like Tunisian crochet, please consider subscribing, liking these videos, sharing with your friends. Without further ado, let's get into today's lesson. Hello and welcome to lesson 1 of my Tunisian Crochet Masterclass. In this lesson, we are going to be talking about the tools that we will be using for Tunisian crochet and which are generally used in Tunisian crochet. We will also look at the examples of projects, the companies from which you can buy your tools. So, what is Tunisian crochet? You might ask. Tunisian crochet is a type of crochet which is somewhere between the crochet and knitting. Some say even that it's a hybrid between crochet and knitting. Well, I can leave that to your judgment. I think Tunisian crochet has got a little bit of both of these crafts. However, it stands on its own rather than being only a hybrid of two crafts. So how do we work Tunisian crochet and how does it compare to normal crochet or to knitting? Tunisian crochet has got different amount of loops on the hook as you work the forward and return pass. Okay, so while in crochet you always have only one loop on your hook at any time generally, and in knitting you are working your stitches from one needle to another. With Tunisian crochet, as you work your rows or your rounds, you increase the number of stitches on your forward pass, and then on your return pass you work these stitches off so that at the end you will come back to the beginning where you've got one loop on your hook. If it sounds a little bit like gibberish at the moment for you, don't worry, we will get into a practical side of Tunisian crochet in the next lesson, when I will be talking about the yarn, the considerations for choosing yarn for your Tunisian crochet projects, and we will actually get to try some basic stitches and modifications of the basic stitches. So for now, let's look at the tools that we use. We use Tunisian crochet hooks, and as you can see, I've got quite selection of Tunisian crochet hooks. So as you can see, Tunisian crochet hooks can vary from very thin ones. This is 3mm Tunisian crochet hook, up to 12 or larger. Okay, this is a quite big Tunisian crochet hook. So they can be made of various materials. This is wood, this is bamboo, we've got metal over here, plastic, as you can see, and they can have one end. As you can see here, there's a single-ended Tunisian crochet hook or double-ended Tunisian crochet hooks. Single-ended Tunisian crochet hooks are generally used for projects which are worked in rows. So as you work, you will have number of stitches increasing on your hook. And these double-ended Tunisian crochet hooks are generally used in crochet in the round. However, there is an exception to this rule, and there is Tunisian crochet projects which you work in rows, which are worked with double-ended Tunisian crochet hooks. But again, we will talk about these exceptions in much later lessons. Okay, so where you can buy Tunisian crochet hooks, majority of big online shops like Wool Warehouse, Love Crafts, Knit Picks, We Crochet, they stock these Tunisian crochet hooks, or you can buy them in independent yarn shops, in independent online yarn shops, in generally majority of the craft stores or online craft stores that sell crochet hooks. And you can also buy them directly on the websites of companies which make them. So let's have a look at some of these companies. This can be Knit Pro, which is in the US. This is known as the Knitter's Pride. So for example, this beautiful Tunisian crochet hook is made by Knit Pro, and so is this bamboo crochet hook. These plastic ones are also made by Knit Pro. Then we've got Denise, which is company which is well known mainly in the US, but I know that they offer shipping to other countries as well. So Denise produce beautiful sets, Tunisian crochet hook sets. Chiago, again, this is a Chinese company. You will mostly get Chiago in independent craft supply shops. And the next one is Prim, then Pony. I've got a Pony hook here. Addy, Clover, then Furls. Furls came up with a beautiful range of Tunisian crochet hooks. And then independent crochet hook makers. They will produce oftentimes hooks to your specifications in terms of size, the look. So if you've got a budget for it, you can look into this as well. Okay, so you might ask, what is the difference between this solid long hook and this short hook? So generally, the long hooks are used for smaller projects of certain width. So for example, if you were making dishcloth, you can use these long Tunisian crochet hooks. However, the consideration for this is that they can get a bit taxing on your wrist, because as you work the stitches, you will carry the weight of the whole project, of the whole fabric in your hand. While looking at the shorter hooks, these hooks are extendable, so we can use these cables to extend the length of the project like so. As you work the project, the weight of the project is not entirely in your wrist. If you rest your arms on a table or in your lap, then this part of the cable will be resting on a table, and this you will not have to carry the weight of this fabric, weight of the part of the project which is on the cable on your wrist. So this can be something then you may consider. And these cables come in various size. You've got the short ones, and this is made by Knit Pro. And what I like about this cable is that they also marked the measurements on the cable. So if you need to quickly check the width of your project, you can do it by looking at how many how long is your project, or how wide is your project between the specific measurements on the cable. And they come in a really large size as well, so this will extend your projects. For example, this big one will extend your project up to 100 centimeters. And you might ask what to do if you are making a project like a blanket or throw bedspread that is even longer than 100 centimeters. In this case, what you need to do is, the way Tunisian crochet works is that you can actually put a lot more stitches on your cable than is the width of your project. So generally you can pack 2 or up even 3 times more stitches on the cable, that is the final width of the project. So if you need a large afghan, the 100 centimeter long cable should be enough for you to make this. Okay, so now just a little bit about where the Tunisian crochet actually come from. Well, it's not so well defined. Many people ask, so why is it called Tunisian crochet? Again, the answers are ambiguous. No one really knows. What we know is that Tunisian crochet was known throughout the history or recent history by many different names. For example, Afghan crochet. So there are some patterns which can be found in needlework books from 19th century. So it's not something that is a recent discovery. It has got some history to it. So once we've gone through our hooks and the supplies that we use, let's have a look at the type of the projects that you can make with Tunisian crochet and how the stitches look. So this is the look of Tunisian simple stitch. It's quite simple look, but a slightly textured, and it has got a certain sophistication to it. So it has got certain appeal to it. So you can make projects such as this shawl just by using Tunisian simple stitch and some color work. Again, we will be talking about color work in one of the future lessons. Okay. Then we've got Tunisian knit stitch, and you can see why someone would call this Tunisian knit stitch, because it has got a look that is very much like the stockinette stitch in knitting, while it's slightly different on the reverse side. Okay, so this is something that resembles knitting. Again, we've got simple ribbing, 2x1 rib, 2 Tunisian knit stitches to 1 purl stitch. Again, it has got that distinct knitting look on the right side, while it's quite different on the reverse side. And as you can see, it is not as stretchy as you would expect or as you would see in knitting. Next example is this swatch. So as you can see, you can create beautiful cable stitch patterns by alternating the Tunisian knit and Tunisian purl stitch. Other examples of projects that you can make is this cowl. So you can make projects flat and then sew them together. As you can see, this cowl is sewn, it's not worked. Or you can create projects in the round, and you can create this color work. So I use this as a stranded color work, with the floats being quite short on the reverse side. So this is my ebon cowl, and you can find the pattern on my website. All the links to the patterns which I'm showing you at the moment will be in the description box down below. So this was cowl. We can make a hat. As you can see, this hat was work flat, with the beginning of the project worked in 2-to-1 ribbing. Then I flipped it inside out. Then I continued with my ribbing here, and then I worked this color work. So this is my ebon hat, which was worked flat, then sewn, and I added a pom-pom. Okay, so another example of hat with wide brim is this winding cables hat. Again, I used the pom-pom. I worked this one again flat, and then sewn it together. As you can see, this seam is less pronounced than on the ebon hat. I worked it slightly differently, where I worked the whole I worked the whole ribbing in one go, and then I turned the project inside out and worked my cable section. Then you can create home decor items as well, such as this Christmas placemat. As you can see, this was worked with Tunisian full stitch. Again, quite simple stitch pattern with some color work. And what is different about this project is that it wasn't worked in a rows straight from right to left, but it was worked on the bias. So it was using the Tunisian corner to corner method. So I started at this corner, then I was increasing until I reached the width of the project that I wanted, and then I maintained this edge while I started decreasing on the other edge. Okay, so that's my placemat. We can create cushions with stranded color work, such as this cushion. So I made the stitch pattern different on one side and different on the other side, how the colors were combined. Some of the projects that are created in Tunisian crochet has got almost like weaved in effect. So this is again very simple stitch pattern, but the effect that it creates is beautiful. Some of the projects in Tunisian crochet can be actually created with a regular crochet hook. So if you have a regular crochet hook that doesn't have that bump in the middle that would prevent you from moving your stitches along the hook, you can actually use a regular crochet hook for working this entrelac method. So the entrelac method is worked generally, you can work it in the round, but you can mainly use it for working rows, and you will ever have the maximum of 5 or 7 or 10 stitches on your hook, because you create each square individually. And for example, these squares are 6 by 5 rows, so I only ever need to have 6 stitches on my hook. Again, here I've got another project where I was using different yarns with some color work, different stitch patterns and combinations. So this is the honeycomb stitch, which is really popular, and very many crocheters like it very much, and it's a simple combination of Tunisian simple and pearl stitch. Then I created this color work with using Tunisian knit stitch, and then I worked a different type of color work where I'm using different color on the forward and return pass. Then I've got the lace section here and a cabled section on this project as well. So you can make a project combining the different techniques and different stitches to create beautiful projects that look very sophisticated, very elegant, just by combining the basic stitches. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for watching. If you like my lesson 1 of the masterclass on Tunisian crochet, let me know in the comments below. Give me a thumbs up, share the lesson 1 with your friends. Have a look on my blog where I've got some beginner and intermediate level projects. And I'm looking forward to see you in the next lesson, in lesson 2. Bye bye.